Hi, good evening. Welcome to Boss versus Coach. This is the only podcast where we cover these two sides of professional life, boss and coach. Bosses which who evaluate people, who evaluate performance, and coaches who builds career, who builds personalities, and who builds leaders for tomorrow. Tonight we are back with a very exciting and very relatable conversation, which is towards a topic which is close to many and which every professional has experienced, but few have carried emotionally. This is about performance appraisal. For some, the cycle must have started. For some, the bell must be have rung. For some, it is round the corner. We are going to explore the paradox of performance appraisal. Performance appraisals, which are meant to be directional, but in practicality happens to be critical. Performance appraisals, where people expect to be seen on what they want to become as a leader in future, but were told of their past. Performance appraisal is supposed to be seen as what you are becoming and aspire to become, but remains limited to what all you did in the last year. So, we are gonna unfold the expectations around performance appraisals, how performance appraisals can be improved, made visionary, directional, and help building leaders for tomorrow and does not restrict to mere distribution of increments. We have with us tonight a very exciting young panel, someone who is experiencing appraisals, someone who has seen the other side of the table and would like to share their views on their expectations from the leaders, from the bosses, from the coaches around on how and what they want to see when we say performance appraisal. How can performance appraisal be an appraisal of an individual full with vision and direction and does not restrict it to few minute mistakes or few small accomplishments that were made in last year? I have with me my co-host, and co-author, Olivia Gad. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to see you, Mohit. Sorry you can't see me, bit of a technical hitch today.
No worries. So, Olivia, what's your quick take on performance appraisal and why do you feel performance appraisal lacks direction and is more on critical analysis of the work being done?
Well, I think so often what happens is you're sent a self assessment form to fill out. You put in all of the things you think you've done brilliantly all year, and then your manager reads it and thinks of all the things you haven't done all year. And then you have a meeting, which is pretty horrible for both sides, as you kind of try and advocate for your perspective. And I think that that's way too common. And I think it would be a beautiful thing if instead managers met with their reports to really look at what was good and what got in the way. But also, what does that mean? So, having quickly gone through what happened, how did it feel, what was good, what was bad, then let's look forward. So, what can we learn? How can you learn more? Is this about driving you to the next promotion, or is it making you feel more fulfilled? So, using the past year as information for planning rather than, I hate to say it, but often I feel like it's about whether you're going to get a pay rise and a bonus, and therefore the boss is sitting there thinking, I want to hold you down, and you're there thinking, I'm worth more than this. So it becomes very adversarial, which it's such a shame.
Agree, completely agree, Olivia. I think we should now invite the panel tonight. So we have got two young professionals, two very aspiring leaders who will share their thoughts on performance appraisal with me and Olivia. So let's welcome Ritika Sudhani and Pragya Sharma on the show. Pragya has been a regular visitor and has been contributed in on few podcasts in past. And Ritika has been someone who has been contributing to this journey from boss to coach very actively. And they both have committed to be seen as coaches. They both have committed to change the perspective, the landscape from being driven towards bosses to be inspired towards coaches. Welcome, Ritika. Welcome, Pragya. I request a quick introduction of yourselves and your initial take on how do you see this process of performance appraisal. Yeah, Ritika.
Yeah. So, hi Mohit, and thank you for inviting me on this podcast. It's a pleasure to have this opportunity to talk over the most sought after topics, and in fact, the most discussed topics among young professionals like us. So, looking forward to that and having a conversation over here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Pragya. Over to you.
Hi everyone. So I'm Pragya and I work in the space of policy advisory and government consulting. But at the same time, I'm also a part of this corporate setup because the clientele is government, but fortunately we are a part of corporate setup where the performance appraisals they are a big part of the culture. And this topic today, what we are about to discuss, this actually resonates with me because I have seen both sides of the world, the structural corporate appraisal system and also the dynamic consulting environment. So, first of all, thank you, Mohit, for inviting me today. For this beautiful conversation, I'm very sure that a few of the very good pointers would be coming out in this today's podcast, and I'm really excited to share my perspective also on how appraisals can become more meaningful and growth oriented per
So,
se.
so Ritika, thank you, Pragya, and thank you, Ritika. So, Ritika, coming to the first thought in my mind, when you walk into performance appraisal, what is that one thing you're looking for? Clarity, direction, vision, or something else?
So it would be very difficult to choose one, but if I have to choose, I would be looking forward to, an honest conversation, honesty from my from someone who is, kind of reviewing my performance. So an honest conversation is always welcome, which rarely happens. Why? Because I feel that we it doesn't talk about the year long work or year long performance of what you have done. It really captures the year long work that you have done. It majorly captures the last 60 to 90 days of what you have done, the loudest moments. So that is what I feel is a drawback, and I would want to move forward and have that honest conversation. It should be more conversational rather than, kind of putting or positioning a person. So, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, now great thoughts. Pragya, what is that one thing that you look out from the process of performance appraisal?
So all of the things which you mentioned, Mohit, all of those things matter a lot. But yeah, to be specific for me, I would say clarity is something which is really important because it tells me what worked for me, what did not work for me, and why it didn't. मतलब I get to know the exact trajectory, what I need to follow, and what is coming up next. So recognition, it always feels good, but clarity will help me build my career as well as to the firm which I am associated with. Without having clarity in the learning curve or in the appraisal system, without it, we are all navigating in a dark space. So good appraisal, I think it will lead you to ultimately to a roadmap where it is not just about rating but about clarity also. There shouldn't be much surprises. Everyone should know where they are standing and where they have to go throughout the year. So this is something which is really important for me.
Olivia, your take, you heard Ritika, you heard Pragya. Performance appraisals to them should be clarity, authentic conversations, something which is bringing clarity, something which shows them the direction, the vision. What do you feel as an established coach, as being a leader for decades, really misses out in bringing that clarity, that vision to the coaches or the ones who get appraised?
Well, I think it's a complex place because the manager is going through that process too, quite probably. And maybe they don't have clarity to pass on. Or maybe, I know some people who have many reports, like maybe 10, 15, 20 people. So to them, it becomes this big hill to climb over, this task to get through. I've got to see all these people and talk to them, and it becomes a chore. And really, it's your opportunity to get the very best out of your people. So if you see it as a chore, then you're not going to be doing it well. So I think there is something about the manager themselves having clarity. I think there's something about them having curiosity. What's important to this person sitting in front of me? What would inspire them to go the extra mile, or to learn a bit more, or to go a bit deeper? And I also think from the appraisee's point of view, so when you're having your appraisal, um, there is something about having clarity yourself. You may not be able to drive the conversation, but can you influence it so that you get what you want out of it, rather than just sitting there thinking, well, the boss is going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah, I do feel that performance appraisals, while are structured, organized, processed, they end up being a person-specific assessment. And like Kritika mentioned, that your memories are short-lived, so you only remember the instances where you have captured something missing out, something which has happened very recently to you, and then you start building up your impression and assessments out of it, which really takes away the essence of performance appraisal, which is should not be limited to last year or the year under assessment, but to the future ahead. Because you should see the person sitting on the other side as someone who has the potential or someone who has a vision to grow high. And how can you help that person to go there is something which should come out as part of performance appraisal. Ritika, which is that one thing in the entire process of performance appraisal which causes you maximum stress and frustration, and why?
So the particular point that causes a maximum frustration is, I would say for me, would be, aspirations are often not discussed. It's always the perception that, kind of weighs over, the aspiration. It's not a conversation about how what are my aspirations and where I see myself, or what the path ahead should be. It's more about how I was perceived based on certain instances. So often, as I said, and Olivia mentioned, that the lack of curiosity. So due to the lack of curiosity, whether I feel it's not intentional, but due to the busyness and a lot of things, the budgets and everything, and a lot of factors, often what suffers is the when you don't intend to ask the person where they want to be. So the conversation is basically about how you were perceived, and how they want to position you. So that brings frustration and kind of beats the essence of performance appraisals.
Well, true. Pragya, what is it one thing that you wish that the appraiser should ask you, but he or she never does?
So I was fortunate enough all of the times that I usually had such coaches. They did the discussion and they always did. So, but yeah, it is very critical to have at least 20 to 30 minutes of conversation with the coachee, that what is the growth trajectory which the coach is looking towards and also the coachee is looking towards. And that 30 minutes is not even a number, but it has a greater impact because most of the time it is a silent competition between the people who are working on the same hierarchy, and we do not get to know what the people they are expecting, what they are participating into. So that kind of 20 to 30 minutes of conversation with your coaches, it actually helps a lot. Because in this system of appraisal cycles, people they usually compare the ratings and all, but not the actual learnings. And it is really important for every coachee to discuss what were the key learnings, what were the efforts which were given, because journey is also important and not just the final result. And growth will only happen when we are getting the feedback in a developmental mode, not just the numerical value of it. So I think that the current this system, it's like a leaderboard system, who is ahead, who is behind, and rather than it should be like a learning board. Like when numbers become our focus, this collaborative effort it actually suffers. What we are always, talking behind the boards in the board meetings and all, people they start working for ratings and not for the development, which is actually important for the firm. So this is something which is critical, I think so.
Very true, very true. Pragya, and very well said. Olivia, I often hear from my colleagues and have self-experienced that very often, while you heard Ritika, Pragya stressing upon the need for an honest conversation, a detailed conversation, a visionary conversation, but very often there happens no conversation. People don't get into conversations, they get assessed by their managers, their coaches, their bosses without having any conversation. And is it the pressure of a boss having too many coaches to appraise and he wants to rush quickly, or is it the fear of them facing their appraises, thinking that they may be asked or put in a tough spot?
Interesting. I mean, it could be any of those, couldn't it? And maybe all of those are relevant for different people. The idea of being appraised without any conversation, well, that is an assessment, but it's not about your performance and how to improve it. It's simply someone giving you a grading behind the scenes. So I wouldn't call that a performance appraisal at all. I'd say that was just a competency assessment behind the scenes. And it was quite, I can't remember who said, that short term last 90 days is the only thing that's top of people's minds. I mean, truly, if you're interested and invested in your workforce, nothing at an end of year meeting should be a surprise, because actually you should be having conversations week in, week out, maybe having more formal chats on a quarterly basis or every other month, so that you really are helping people to develop and to think about their future. And to Pragya's point of view, it's an investment in your organization's future when you look after the people who do the work. So I think my biggest problem with the annual appraisal is that it is annual. I think that should be a wrap-up conversation. We've been talking all year, and this is where we both know that we are. What are we doing next year? And it's a great chance for planning. But I don't think that there is clarity for a lot of managers as to what the meeting is for. For some it is setting salaries, for some it is reviewing performance, for some it is a chance to give someone a grade so that they can tick a box and get a bell curve. For some it is a chore which they wish they didn't have to do. For some it is a joy and it's a chance to catch up with people. But actually, who's defining what this thing is? And any of those could be the right answer. But if the appraiser and the appraisee go into a meeting with different views of what the meeting's for, of course it's going to be disappointing to, well, probably both of them.
Really agree, Olivia. Nothing more can add weight to this conversation. So, Olivia, I want to ask you, what is that one thing you would advise the leaders to change in their current approach towards performance appraisal, which we heard is more situational, a short-term assessment, assessment without conversation, or an assessment which lacks authenticity. So, what is that one thing you would advise the leaders out there to think of when they sit next time appraising their team?
If the person you're about to sit with is worth employing, then show them. Simple as that. If you think that someone is worth having in your team, show them that you're interested in them, show them that they have a future. And like I say, being curious. One of my favorite questions is one that I always used to ask at the end of a performance or a appraisal or whatever you want to call it, which is, what would you like me to do differently or more next year to help you? And just turning it around, getting a bit of feedback, because again, this is a human relationship. It isn't just someone sitting, high on a mountain and looking down on people. It is actually two colleagues really figuring out how to do a fantastic job together. So that's what I'd encourage
Agree.
people to do.
No, I fully agree. Ritika, what's your take on this?
So, Mohit, before I go ahead with that, wanted to share a very interesting statistics. Only as per the industry research, only 14% of the companies have actually they actually believe that the performance reviews add value to have added any value to the company. So the number is very small. So if companies could first uh, equip their leaders with the necessary skill, time, so that they can have a meaningful appraisal conversation with their appraisees. That is one. Second, it shouldn't be a dump up of everything. It should be a year long conversation rather than a dump up, which will help you or the person getting that review to understand the direction. So these are the two things which can truly make a difference.
Very well said, Ritika. Thanks for sharing this honest feedback. I'm sure people out there must be listening, and this will leave them with few thoughts, few silent questions in their mind. If they pick it right, they will be tagged as coaches. If they don't, then bosses have the world to rule. Pragya, your take.
So I completely agree with what Ritika just mentioned, and top of it, I believe that direction is something which we all can follow, but culture is something that is being built up in any of the team. So when we want something to happen in a team or at a firm's level, I do believe that it is always the case that when the people who are uh, you know eh, uh, eh, uh, a little in top hierarchy, they set up a culture. It is always being followed by the people. They, even if they believe or they don't believe, because they usually respect the fact that the people who are at the top hierarchies, they also do the same. So it is about making that culture. If the system of appraisal is being respected in a way how it has to be, how it should be by the people who are in top hierarchies, it will definitely, that culture will come up to the deep down hierarchies as well. So rather than just making it a tick box exercise every year, it has to be inculcated in the very culture of every firm by the people who are working in it, and then only it can what all we are talking about, it can actually happen. So making it more like a dialogue and a feedback mechanism, which is not about just surprises that you have to do this and you did not do this, and that is the reason why you're not getting this. So rather than comparisons, it should be always about asking that what do you want me to do the next, how Olivia mentioned. It is a very nice thing to do actually. People who are actually skeptical, they don't even ask that what are the expectations from them. So this is a very little effort from coachee side as well as from the coach side. But this little conversation can actually lead us in a better way. And of course, no surprises. Everyone who is working, they should know that where they actually stand throughout the year. And the appraisals, what are being discussed, they should only appear at the final stage. No shocks. It should all be very transparent. I mean, like it is very frustrating for a coachee that after doing a lot many efforts, he or she is not really able to make it up to his or her own expectation. So transparency is very important along with feedback.
Thank you, Pragya. And I think it's very exciting, very inspirational, and I think introspecting. So, for the leaders out there, you have heard the coaches, you have heard what the young professionals are expecting out of performance appraisal. Next time you sit on the table, don't hold the pen with power, but hold the passion with purpose. Because the best performance appraisal is the one which doesn't tell you how you are rated, but it shows you what you are becoming and how you as a coach can help them in be there where they wish to aspire. Performance appraisal is not about a conversation of performance. It's about a conversation of purpose, vision, and direction you all wish to be with and you want to see the other person going to. On that note, thank you, Olivia, thank you, Ritika, and thank you, Pragya, for this exciting conversation. I'm sure this will lead to many ideas, many thoughts, and conversations out there. Keep watching Boss versus Coach. For those who are yet to be a part of this, please join us on our YouTube channel. Come to our podcast, have your voice being heard, and do pick up the book, read through it, and tell us how it transformed your lives. On that note, thank you very much. Good night. Goodbye. Thank you, Ritika.
Thanks
Thank you,
all.
Prithia. Olivia, thanks
Bye.
always. Bye
Thank
Thank you,
bye.
you.
everyone. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Boss vs. Coach series by Mohit has been a very transformative journey, not just for me, but for many leaders, I suppose. The people who really want to learn how they can be good leaders, how they can be more empathetic, more expressive, and more understanding, per se. By basically challenging the notion of command and control and shifting that notion to develop and then empower people. So it has been a beautiful journey, a beautiful series, and for all the people who really want to learn how leadership should look like,